block of rocks. I think if they wanted to help me, they would leave me alone so that way we could win.
Well, actually, maybe the only reason that they ventured down there to begin with is because you and Lana came out in their match beforehand. Did you ever think of that?
PP. Shh.
Well, they aren't trying to help us
And
now.
even then, she hit her. It wasn't me, and she still did it. Can't get right.
Well, good thing we are.
You know, and we all have our 15 minutes of fame, and I'd like to take a couple of my 15 minutes to talk about the rights and the wrongs in the world of professional wrestling.
WWE Championship.
This match is for the ECW World Heavyweight Championship.
The World Heavyweight Championship.
The match and new NWA Heavyweight Champion of the world.
We appreciate you guys coming out and taking your time to support women's wrestling in America.
This match is for the AWA World Heavyweight Wrestling Championship.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Rights and Wrongs Pro Wrestling Podcast. This is your host, Mr. Green. And, man, do we have a turn of tide this week. I'm going to say something about the episode of WoW that I haven't said. And has it been a year? If not a year, several months. And I mean several long months. But I am going to say it. I actually enjoyed the majority of that show. The majority of the episode, I enjoyed. Shocking. I cannot remember the last time I said that. Now, that is not to say that it didn't have things in there that I was like, I wish they could have did that different. But as far as the pace of the show and where it went, how it maintained the majority of the focus in one direction, I didn't have all that much that I could complain about. And it'll be my privilege to go into it today. Now, again, that's not to say that I didn't have some stuff there that I was like, well, you know. But it was shocking to me. Even my coworkers. For those of you that might just be listening, I watched this show at work as I am I don't know if I'll give my title, but anyway, I work in a television hub. And one of the shows that comes on during the shift that we work is WOW, Women Wrestling. And as stated in previous podcasts, we could see that show air in different markets across the country. So it's not just me, although a lot of them have just begun to turn it off. But in any case, having looked at it this particular week and I was asked about it, I was like, you know what? Considering where they normally go, this ain't that bad. I don't know if it's just they've lulled me into accepting mediocre or not, but we'll get to that when we talk about it. So that right there is a plus side, is a different vibe just going into this all together. However, there are other things that we need to just address and discuss before we roll off into the bulk of the show, which is always the review. So let's get to those things, shall we? We're gonna kick this off as we sometimes do, by rolling into the news, views, and updates. And what is going on in the news? Well, there's a couple of different things, and we've narrowed it down to this. First thing being, Willow Nightingale has re-signed with AEW. So for those of you who are hoping for the triumphant return of Kandy back to WoW, you're out of luck. She ain't going to be doing it no time soon. And considering how Tony Khan tosses money around, is probably for the best that she does not. She can earn her living in AEW and kind of just get that six figures for, for being his friend. I'm sure that helps out a lot too. But it has been reported by Fightful's Sean Ross Sapp that she was coming up on a contract year, but she added in a multi-year re-signing. Now, of course, that multi-year does not specify the amount of years that she's doing. I would assume, and that is all this is, I would assume that it would probably be a minimum of probably 3, maybe, just to keep her away from jumping ship. AEW, unfortunately, well, depending on your point of view, has lost several people over the last couple of months. And I am certain that if he can help it, he being Tony Khan, is going to try to cut that off at the pass. There's already a big sign. The fight for them now is the fight for talent. Because the WWE has done almost everything that they can to make sure that any talent that's worth anything, they keep on their radar. Whether that be create and evolve, where they can just put some new people in there that not quite ready for NXT, but just above working in indie, because I mean it's like a really high dollar polished indie. Whether that be the WWE ID program, signing in talents and signing up schools, whether that be the extension of them partnering off with, whether that be in a major way or in a minor way, GCW, Game Changer Wrestling, now it's in a minor way, or TNA, which is in a major way, which basically is kind of, I hope it doesn't continue, but it's like it's morphing itself into just an extension of NXT. And other things that they've done, you know, the people that have left AEW, that have jumped ship and gone over and signed up with them, that fight is for talent. So I'm sure that works in Willow's favor. But as is written, Fightful Select has confirmed that Nightingale has re-signed with AEW on a multi-year contract. AEW sources added that Nightingale says that she is very happy with the company and wanted to remain there. So she's not one of the people that have been a little negative on the AEW front. She is happy there, and I would imagine, why wouldn't she be? She's worked very hard on the indies for quite some time. Why not enjoy the fruit of that labor and have some place where she ain't got to go off and work 5 and 6 different other gigs just to have a living as a wrestler? So bravo, congratulations to Nightingale. There's a top match that has been teased for Evolution, assuming that Evolution 2 takes place. It is not, I repeat, it has not been confirmed that Evolution is a go. It is all rumor, so take that with a grain of salt. But according to WrestleVotes, a match between Charlotte Flair and Jade Cargill is rumored to be a top match. Amongst what is reported to have a 7 or 8 match card, possibly including a battle royal. They've already talked about Flair and Cargill having a couple of interactions, passing each other and whatnot. You remember when she first got there, they had a little eye to eye in the backstage segment. Then I don't think it was words exchanged, but it was just enough for a tease. You know, Jade Cargill was just coming off of being the big fish in women and AEW's women's division. And so there was teasing a little bit of that. But it is seemingly being teased further. Whether this takes place or not, we don't know. It has been said that if it does occur, it is supposed to be on the weekend of July 12th and the 13th. WWE has not confirmed that at this time, but other outlets, including WrestleVotes and Fightful, have all made reports on it. We will keep our eyes open. Speaking of big events, there's one that's coming up this weekend that I am at the very least looking forward to hearing the results of. I'll be at work, so I'd have to just order it and watch it later if I do. But there's an edition being placed to the upcoming NWA World's Women's Title match. Not an additional participant, but additional name that will be working the match, and that name is Gail Kim. Gail Kim is now going to be listed as the special referee for that match. And there was a message by the NWA's Billy Corgan about having her as the referee, so I'm going to read that. Bear with me, this is the first time I'm reading it. As the person who booked this very special matchup between WWE's Natalya and NWA World Women's Champion Kenzie Paige in a championship match, no less, and given the bad blood between the two stars, which is only built since the Bloodsport event in Vegas and, of course, Miss Paige's unseemly attack at the dungeon, I come to a very important conclusion, which is that the officiating of this match must be handled in a very particular way. And though I have full confidence in our referees, I am concerned about their safety as well as ensuring that we in the National Wrestling Alliance will have a clear and just result. Therefore, I've named Gail Kim as the special guest referee for this contest at the Crockett Cup Saturday, May 17th in Philadelphia. For I know well Miss Kim's impeccable and unimpeachable integrity in the sport of professional wrestling. May the best lady win. Well, that could be interesting. Generally, when I see a special referee added to the mix, at some point they are included in the mayhem, quite possibly. My opinions about this have not changed. Well, one, I wish that the NWA was officially using the mock-up that Natalya used, or Natty Neidhart. As you might have heard in one of the previous episodes, she said Natalya's not coming, but Natty Neidhart is. And I like the idea of that, and I wish that the NWA and Billy Corgan kind of leaned more into that rather than keep pushing her as Natalya. Because every promo that she's had leading into this has basically been Natty Neidhart, the low-key legend. It hasn't been Natalya. It's been a whole different shift. In fact, that's almost been the crux of the promos that she's cut. This is not that person that you've watched on WWE TV. Not in those words, but basically that's what she's been leaning towards. So I wish they had given that. But the opinion that I was talking about as far as the match was concerned, regardless of whether Gail Kim is there or not, I'm glad that she is and that she can make an appearance and show herself. And she looks to be in great shape. So if this somehow led to Paige and Kim having some sort of showdown, or vice versa, Kim and Neidhart having some sort of showdown, I wouldn't be mad at that. But I still lean towards Natalya. Now I'm doing it. Natty Neidhart. I'm going to call her by the name that she wants to be used as at that pay-per-view. It still is my opinion that Neidhart should win the championship. Paige has been a very capable champion. Paige has done a great job of being their women's champion for what it is. I don't expect her to change the world with that thing. And I'm not saying that as a knock to her, but I just don't. I don't expect her to somehow reinvigorate the title or get a bunch of people into it at this point. Again, not a knock on her, but the only way that would have happened, in my opinion, if she had a slew of names to go against and defeat to elevate her. That's the one thing that Paige largely has lacked in her championship reign. I mean, she did bump off Camille, but Camille has been defanged by AEW, so I don't know if that at this point would be looked at as a big deal anymore. And then the other persons that she's beaten over the course of time, yeah, they're capable wrestlers. But not many of them have strong names. She needed a strong name to beat, and I think it's too far into her reign at this point to provide that. It's been, what are we pushing up, 2 years? She's listed at like 626 days as of me recording this. So, man, I think the ship has sailed as far as trying to make something more out of her. And her chasing the title might not be a bad thing. It's probably time to clean her up a bit. Do a refresh. The women's division right now, or I can't even say the women's division, the women's title right now in the NWA is probably getting the most amount of attention that championship has gotten in the 2 years that she's been the champion. And I don't want to make that sound like that's her fault. But what I will say is that she's been placed in a position that is somewhat difficult. Is very difficult for her to have done more than what she's doing without having some names, some proper names that she can get in there with and help elevate herself and re-elevate the championship. But it is a great thing for the NWA. In fact, it's been the first time that I've been interested in seeing anything from the NWA in quite some time. So I hope that it lives up to the hype. Neidhart didn't let me down on the GCW thing, and I do not expect her to let me down here. Speaking of the NWA, I had just gotten a press release, which ties in both companies, surprisingly enough. And I would like to read that press release for you now. This comes to me from Paramount Global Content Distribution. And it is stating that they are due to launch an all-wrestling fast channel with WOW, Women of Wrestling, and the NWA on Roku. Now, before I continue on, let me define what a fast channel is, for those who might not be aware. You've seen them all the time, you just might not have known what they refer to it as. All that is a free, ad-supported streaming television. Fast. Now, it's not spelled with two S's for some reason. You would think that it would, since it's got supported streaming. Excuse me. But that's all that is. It just means it's a channel like what you already see on Pluto TV or Tubi TV or Crackle or like Roku. It's just one of those channels that you could put on. You don't have to subscribe to it. Just turn it on, let it run, and every once in a while they'll drop a commercial in there. So let's go into what their press release says. This is, again, provided by Paramount Global Distribution. Paramount Global Content Distribution is launching an all-wrestling fast channel called Wrestling Central, coming soon on the Roku channel in the U.S. and Canada. The new channel will feature new weekly matches from WOW, Women of Wrestling, and the National Wrestling Alliance, along with an extensive library of content including classic episodes, never before seen matches, specials, and documentaries. We are thrilled to be launching a new wrestling fast channel, which includes WOW, Women of Wrestling, and the National Wrestling Alliance to a wider audience, says Dan Cohen, Chief Content Licensing Officer, Paramount, and President, Republic Pictures. This new fast channel premiering exclusively on the Roku channel from two of the most exciting wrestling promotions will offer fans an exclusive and unique destination to catch both new action-packed matches along with hundreds of hours of classic library content. Currently in its third season, WOW Women of Wrestling is the premier all-female sports entertainment property, co-owned and co-founded by trailblazing sports executive Jeannie Buss and David McLean, who is the founder of the original Glow, Gorgeous Ladies of Wrestling. Gorgeous Ladies of wrestling, led by larger-than-life WoW superheroes and their in-ring rivalries. WoW is an action-packed saga that plays out at high-energy live events in weekly syndication. As the only all-female wrestling organization with a global footprint, WoW showcases supreme athleticism, dramatic and inspiring stories, and is centered 24/7 around empowering and uplifting women and fans around the world. The series is distributed by Paramount Global Content Distribution. The National Wrestling Alliance is the most legendary promotion in pro wrestling history, the oldest wrestling brand in the world. Founded in 1948 with humble beginnings in the Midwest, it was the sole governing body for professional wrestling until the 1960s and remained the most influential body until the mid-1980s. It has been home to iconic stars like Ric Flair, Dusty Rhodes, Dory and Terry Funk, Sting, and current NWA World Champions Tom Latimer and Kenzie Page. In 2017, rock star Billy Corgan purchased the NWA to restore the alliance to its former glory. Now, with packed matches all over the U.S. streaming on X and YouTube, as well as unscripted television series on Peacock, the NWA is once more a force in professional wrestling. Now, the rest of this press release is speaking about Paramount Global Distribution. I'm not going to get into that, and about Roku itself. And I'm sure as I was reading that, some of that stuff you probably in your mind was saying, I know he doesn't agree with that. And that's true. There are things that were listed there that are like, no, I don't agree with that. But it is the press release, and I am going to read the press release as it's presented to me. This might be good for both of them. Both of these companies are basically in the same spot in terms of, I don't want to say market penetration, because actually WoW has a stronger market penetration than the NWA does at this point. I don't know if they have as a strong of a fan base as the NWA, because for whatever it is that you say about the NWA today, they still are willing to put their money down and throw out a pay-per-view. Now, that might not always be the best thing for them to do, but they are willing to roll the dice and put out a pay-per-view. WoW is about content creation. And until somebody says something different to me, or they can prove something different, that's what I would tend to believe. It is just content creation. And the more I see them do things, I shouldn't say them, but the more I see their content sold off to things like this, it pretty much validates my point. The thing here was, it's like the magic number with TV for syndication is 5 seasons. That's the magic number. 5 seasons for the average television show guarantees them a shot, and a reasonable shot at syndication. You can get past that, you can have it in syndication and be airing at the same time. Pretty much what WoW is doing right now. I shouldn't. In their case, they are their first run syndication, but they also had their stuff on Pluto, and now it's going to go over to Wrestling Central, which they should be getting something off of. Now, whether they get a lot or little, that's open to debate, but you get the point. If WoW were to, and I'm not wishing it on it, but if WoW were to cease operations, say the following season 4 or season 5, I can pretty much guess that they're going to continue to have it run in reruns for as long as they can provide the stuff and people haven't seen it all. And they are throwing in things from Access TV, so they still have that. And I'm pretty sure if they really wanted to go reaching off, they could grab stuff they had from 20 years ago and stick it on the channel just to give people stuff to watch. The NWA probably isn't that fortunate. The stuff that Corgan owns as far as the NWA is concerned, unless he got the libraries along with it, I would hope that he did. But most of his stuff is going to be from 2018 to current, maybe. But for the both of them, this is probably a good thing. Neither one of them have the NWA in particular doesn't have a strong television home. If anything, they should probably start thinking about putting some of their first run stuff on Wrestling Central instead of chopping it up and putting it on X, which I have no idea why they do that. That just seems ridiculous. But they have that. And this may do them some favors. Who knows? Now, generally speaking, when I'm on Roku and I'm starting to look at anything wrestling related, it's generally TNA's wrestling channel, which has been on there forever. Because they just drop in not just episodes of Impact, but they drop in full pay-per-views. And it's with people that you know and stuff like that. So it's very enticing in that way. WoW will probably be the bait that somebody lands on to start watching this channel in the first place. I know. I know that sounds a little bit different than what I would say, but like I've said it probably a dozen plus times here. Somebody's going to stop and watch WoW if for no other reason than as women in tights. Now, whether they stay or not might be a different issue. But somebody's going to stop and look at that channel just because of that. I certainly hope both companies, WoW and the NWA, are able to utilize this channel to the best of their ability and make something good out of it. I say that because it's not like this is the first time that a centrally focused variety wrestling channel, for lack of a better term, has come on Roku and or Pluto TV. And when I say variety wrestling channel, I mean like, you know, it's not focused on any one promotion. It's focused on multiple. So we've had one of those come and go. I ain't saying that it's going to come and go. I'm just saying that I hope that they can make something out of it, make the best out of it. I don't know if the NWA will transfer their stuff over to them. I don't know if WoW would look at that as an opportunity, like, well, maybe we can do a full-on 3-hour event or something like that. But perhaps Wrestling Central can open up some possibilities for them. Maybe. And that is the news, views, and updates for this episode. And we're going to give one open spot. And I know it sounds weird when you listen to this as a podcast because it might just be blank air. But on YouTube, I leave this spot open so they can drop in whatever commercials and ads that they want to do. So we're going to do that. Have a little musical interlude for you podcast listeners out there that's getting this just straight audio. That's mostly for you. And when we come back, then we are going to go directly into full review of WoW. Stay tuned.
There is a woman that I know that I have seen lie and cheat her way out of exile. A woman that I've seen turn her back on the people that she called family. A woman that I've seen crawl over people's backs to do anything she could to get to the very top, so where she could now challenge for the WoW World Championship. And now you're upset. Now is the time you choose to leave all that behind and try to take the straight and narrow to get this title. And now you're upset. Now you're upset that things aren't working out your way. Well, look at the way you got here.
Only one who is willing to do whatever it takes to win has always been me.
Maybe if you didn't abandon who you were to try to prove yourself to all these people of how great you can be, maybe you would have been great. And maybe there's still time for you to be great. But damn if it ain't the way you're doing it right now. Do better, Genesis. Or watch other people do better.
We are back and ready to go. It is time for the review of WoW episode, well, here's the opening slate, episode 335, season 3, episode 35, title Tricks and Titles. The air date, May the 10th, the chronological number 139. Now, before I even go any further, I would like to reiterate, I don't want to come off as being contradictory to myself if I start poking holes and stuff like, why did they do this? They should have did that, and then say, well, it was a pretty good episode overall. I am saying that the structure of the episode was better than what I can recall in recent memory. That much I will stick with. There are still things I'm like, I don't know why. And I just want to be clear before I even go into talking about whoever it is that's going on and what promos and matches and so on and so forth. I just ultimately believe that the good outweighed the bad. Now, having said that, the show opened with Lana Star, Penelope Pink, and HollySwag coming out the ringside, and Nigel recapping things on the commentary. And the heels cut a promo on their opponents later on in the night. Imagine that. Persons who are participating in the match got the chance to not only talk about the match, but they put over an issue that they were in, and it might not have been a long, drawn-out thing, but they did it. HollySwag got in there and cut a promo, which for all intents and purposes, took a shot at Miami Sweet Heat, because they said that, well, she said that they were the best tag team that the Fab Four had ever seen, which I thought that was a nice touch, opposed to her saying it's the best tag team in WoW. She specifically narrowed it down to that group. She talking about their opponents, and then we pass it over to Penelope Pink. Penelope Pink then gets the chance to get on the microphone and put herself over, saying that she's in a short elite list of women that's in the WoW, and which is true. The only thing that I didn't like about this is that David McClain, of course, had to comment throughout it. Like, yeah, that's true. I was like, well, let her finish it. But in any case, I'm glad that she got the chance to say this on the air, opposed to just doing stuff on Instagram. She did a similar promo on Instagram about her being on the short list. I don't remember if she named anyone else that was, because I know Santana Garrett is probably the only other person that has accomplished it. The downside with that for WoW is that it's not really recognized enough to make that feel like a big deal. Like, Penelope Pink has to make it a big deal about it on her own. If Santana Garrett had been, kind of paraded as, well, she's the only one that's ever accomplished this. She's won the WoW Championships. She's won the WoW Tag Team Championships. It might have gotten a little bit more traction, but still, it was good that Pink did it. Put herself over. I would have liked Star to be able to say something within this as well, just to kind of round things out, but, we'll take what we can get. As she closes it up, then Swag grabs the microphone, make sure that that they are the best damn thing in WoW, not just Pink. Although there was a comment that Swag made earlier that, of course, McClain had to speak up on, when she says something to the effect of, we're going to hold these tag team titles until this company goes out of business, which was a great line for her. I mean, I'm sure she's not actively looking for the company to go under, but at the same time, it's a good line considering, almost every wrestler goes out of business after a while, except for WWE. We don't know what AEW's future holds, but McClain had to speak up on that. I was like, that's not going to happen, baby. I don't know which one I heard more, and it may have just been me. I will attest to that. I'm not going to say that they did anything wrong. It could have just been all me, but for whatever reason, it's like, I don't know what I heard more of: David McClain saying baby, or Nigel saying David's name. It just felt like every other minute, like, well, they're about to do this, David. Well, I'll tell you what, David. She's about to climb the top rope, David. And she just slammed her, David. I was like, it just felt like that to me. And I can't even justifiably say that he did it all the time. It just sounded like it. I don't know why I honed in on that in this particular instance, but I just did. And I don't know. It just got me after a while. But anyway, it was good promo. It set the tone. It got those two, in my eyes, set up as not the justified heels, but it set them up, as the recognized heels of the show. So if you're just tuning into this and you don't know who you're rooting for or who's good and who's bad, they made it clear. WoW oftentimes will not do that. Now, I'm not going to say that they do it. They leave people vague all the time. But there are plenty of times where it's like, okay, well, who am I supposed to be cheering for in this particular instance? Here, they make it very, very evident, very clear, good on them. The next segment was the introduction of top tiers Kandy, Krush, and then Kara Kai. Of course, Krush being accompanied by Glitter and Campanelli because they can't do it by themselves, and nothing wrong with that if they want to be the heel. But, of course, the baby faces are all complete idiots because they like to, I'll just do it on my own. But that wasn't an issue in this particular case. Why? Well, we'll get to that. So, Krush comes out full force with her team, and the commentary recaps the top-tier feud. Now, here's my first break point as to, well, why did they do that? The feud, in my eyes, is over. What feud is there? Nothing that David McLean talked about as it related to Kara Kai trying to get even. He phrased it a little oddly, but I know what he was trying to say, that they were trying to get even for putting her partner out, Tara Strike, and putting out their replacement partner, Ashley Blaze, both of which must possess brittle bone disease inside of WoW because, well, just go back and look at the angle that allegedly put Tara Strike out. I was like, come on, man. You can find some people that probably got hit by a bus and came back from faster than she's doing it. Opposed to that ridiculous injury angle that they did. The sharpshooter, such a painful thing. I was looking, Bret Hart should be in jail right now. Anyhow, so he recaps that and talks about how top tier taken out and, all these people, those two. And Kara Kai's coming out for revenge. Again, this already happened. They already did it. They already had the, quote, revenge match. They titled it that. The non-title 6-woman revenge match, which is a stupid title. But that's basically what it was. And they had to beat you in the head with the fact that it's non-title because we can't have top tier losing. So, Kai comes out alone. I wrote why. You would think that she would, if this team was as dangerous as they are alleged to be, you would think that she would have a little bit more sense than to just be out there on her own. But that wasn't how it worked. So she just came on in and was ready to face off against her opponent for the evening, I was going to say Hall of Fame boxer, but she ain't a Hall of Fame. She's a boxer, or at least she was, Kandy Krush. Now, I want to say one thing about the wrestler/boxer gimmick. It is a good start-off point for people that have transitioned from one sport to the next. However, the boxing thing really doesn't last all that long overall. I'm glad that she got rid of the gloves, but, they probably need to integrate her a little bit more into the wrestling thing, but that's neither here nor there, just personal opinion. It starts off with Krush trying to, I don't want to say get a rush job in on her, but, they pretty much rush each other, and Krush catches Kai in her rear waist lock, tries to toss her off, and then Kai more or less gives her version of a Thez press and then starts doing a schoolyard punch on top of Kandy Krush. And somebody in the front row is mimicking Kai giving punches. Again, probably one of their extras that they hire to stick out in the crowd to make them look like they're somewhat engaged or entertained. So Krush goes to the outside. Kai looks like she's going to go over there and try to get her, but she comes back in, she being Krush. And then we continue on the match. The other two members of the top tier are just kind of floating around, primarily by the commentating booth. Dave McLean, of course, at some point mentions the fact that it's almost like it's 3-on-1, which puts me back in the mindset of then why are you allowing it? We all know that he could do something about it. We've seen him do something about it. But I guess the only crime that will force him to do that is if you lie to David McClain, like apparently the Alliance did. There was I'm going to call it an effort at a elevated right cross or whatever you want to call it. Kai comes in on Krush. Krush kind of hoists her up and then gives her a punch. This is probably the best camera angle for what that was because it looked like it grazed her, but the way that they had the camera positioned in that particular shot, you wouldn't be able to tell it, and it happened pretty quickly. So, good job on the camera guys or the director or whoever called that shot or whoever edited it together. So now this is the turning point where Kai is taking a beating and Krush is just loving life. She's raking her face and she's pushing on the second rope and all that good stuff. And she's having fun, giving her a chop, taking control. But at some point in the match, primarily when Krush tries to take a charge in on Kai gets out of the way and the tides turn. She hits her in the corner with a double knee. She tries to go for a second time, but both members of Top Tier pull Kandy Krush out of the ring. I don't know why Kai was not able to see that they were doing that, but she didn't. So she charges in full throttle for the second knee strike and goes right up against the turnbuckles. The referee sees this and he does what the referees would normally do. He just kind of waves his hands like, hey, don't be doing that. Yeah, get back in the ring. And that was pretty much it. It didn't send him out of there. Didn't no reprimanding or nothing like that. Just like, hey, stop it. So Krush gets back into the ring. Kai takes a shot at her. She fires one back at Kai. At some point, Zayn calls something an Ali slam. It's like a front face lock that she just hoisted and tossed her opponent over. And I was like, I've never heard anybody call that an Ali slam. In fact, I don't know why that would be a tribute to Muhammad Ali. When has he ever been in a position to do that? But it is what it is, and you can call it what you want to call it. So she does that, and then she tries to get an easy pin by placing her foot on the chest of Kara Kai, and then, of course, surprise, surprise, doesn't work. Kai kicks out. Krush is then just giving some kicks to her and beats her up until she gets her into the corner. She is more or less doing the arrogant babyface, arrogant heel deal, where she is, I'm clearly better than you. I could beat you at any time, and she's just having her way with it. We do get to a point where this might have been the second time that I looked at that scorpion kick that Kai did that it looked like it was, all right, that looked pretty good. Krush catches Kai's foot. She swings it back down, and Kai follows through with the kick to the top of Krush's head. Like I said, that might have been the second best time I've seen her accomplish that move. There have been times where it didn't really work out all that great, but here it was pretty smooth, and Krush did a good job selling it as well. They pick it back up. Kai comes across and nails Krush with like 2 cross-body chops. She tries to level her with a couple of kicks before she goes in for a Northern Light suplex. That's not enough to keep Krush down. But here we come towards the end. This is where Top Tier decide that they got to get involved. So on one side of the ring, we got Glitter getting up and talking to the referee because he's an idiot and he decides to go over and talk to her for whatever reason. Coach Campanelli gets up on the side by which both Krush and Kai are coming towards. Kai look like she's about to get rolled up by Krush. She goes to the ropes. Campanelli moves her hands or snaps them off of the rope so that she cannot hold on to him, and therefore Candy Crush can roll her up. She succeeds in rolling her up, and once she does that, Glitter gets out of the way. Campanella's already down. But as she is down in the pinning position, Kai then rolls or reverses it and rolls Krush up. And then 1, 2, 3, she's got her. And Krush is upset and angry. How could you do this? And much like the last time when we saw one of the members of Top Tier lose, somehow it's like this invisible force shield in front of them, which they had no problems beating anybody up in front of an authority figure or a ref or anybody else preceding this. But now it's like once they roll out of the ring, damn it, I can't get you. What am I supposed to do? You just left the ring. And so Kai is out on, she's literally like 6 feet away from him. And she's just, I won. And the referee raises her hand and shows her to be the victor. And then we get tantrum number 2 from Coach Campanelli. Now, before we go into the tantrum portion of this, I think I need to address the tantrum. Because much like what happened some months ago when Ice Cold just lost her one match and then she's like, I can't take this. And then she quit and came back to Scout Parker. These tantrums feel like they are coming out of nowhere. I probably would buy into the idea that they are frustrated and angry if they had actually lost some stuff. But I don't know who it is back there, but it's like they feel so obligated to protect their heel champions for whatever reasons. Like they can't have a significant loss. Top Tier has not had a significant loss, no matter how they try to paint the picture. They have not had a significant loss since they got their Los Angeles Vanity Trios titles. And that's basically what they are. But nothing's come of it. No team has been elevated to try to chase them. No team has been elevated succeeding in beating them. Even when they did win, they pretty much got the win back. Like I said, 2 weeks later, that was more or less nullified. All this feels like to me, and take it with a grain of salt, is the means to give Top Tier losses without it meaning anything. Like, I don't want them to lose the belts, but they have to lose sometimes, so we'll just put them in singles matches. And back to the tantrum, why? What is it that's bothering them that's so bad about it? Okay, yeah, they're not supposed to be happy about it. We're not expecting them to be happy that the loss took place. But she's losing her mind, screaming, hollering. This is conspiracy, we get those when people go on a losing streak or something with significant loss had taken place. Well, as I just recapped, none of those things have happened. Now imagine if in that non-title match that they had some weeks ago, they had actually lost the belts. And then they lost another match. And then they start losing in singles matches. Now you're giving Campanelli a reason to complain and be mad. And this is a conspiracy. This isn't right. I don't lose. All of those things would make sense to me then. But here is just, and we'll have you lose and you'll throw a tantrum. And as much as I thought the match was fine, enjoyed it, and as much as I think that they at least kept the trend of trying to tell some story with both them and the Fab Four in play, I do not agree with that positioning Top Tier as this tantrum, this fit, this display of being a sore loser in what feels like out of the blue. Now, I can't say it's out of the blue in that it's the first time. No, it's not the first time we've got this with Coach Campanelli, a week ago. But nothing of value has been lost here. That's what I'm saying. And it hasn't been enough of these to justify her losing her mind. So anyhow, Campanelli cuts a promo, following the laws. Everybody's conspiring against him. That's the essential premise of it. But my biggest note when this match was over with is, why is Top Tier acting like something's stopping them from attacking? If they're so, if WoW has tried to lead its viewership to believe that Top Tier is some sort of dangerous faction, what's stopping them from attacking her? This could be, and I stress could. I put quotations marks around it and whatever else you want to apply. This could be good. It could actually lead to something good. I do not believe it will lead to something good, but it could do that. Fingers are crossed. That's basically what I got. It's just fingers crossed. The next segment is a backstage segment with HollySwag clearly stirring the pot with Miami Sweet Heat against each other. I wrote it's a nice segment, but why would the twins believe this opposed to not believing each other? They cannot be that stupid. And also is this where they're trying to plant the Trojan horse plot? Now, we've heard weeks, if not months ago, David McClain saying, well, some people out there think that she's just a Trojan horse and she's trying to cause problems in the Fab Four. Now, that could be a thing, but I also don't see how that would make sense if she turns around and she's a Trojan horse when she has clobbered her mother in the head with a rock and Jesse Jones in the head with a rock and other baby faces in the head with a rock. What is it that she's going to be doing that's going to justify that? How can she justify that? Is more or less a loose end that I don't even know if they could tie that loose end, quite honestly. If they turn around some months like, haha, we fooled you. How are they going to justify that? Well, I was willing to get hit in the head in the rock for my baby. I don't know. So anyhow, what this segment was is you got HollySwag in the back, and she's the beginning of that segment. She's talking to Lindsay, and she's more or less telling her that, well, I wouldn't believe what your sister said about you gaining weight and whatever. And then Lindsay's like, what? She told me I was looking good a little while ago, and then she walks off. Then Lori comes in. I was like, well, perfect timing, right? So Lori comes in, and now Swag is talking to her. It's like, oh, you look good in that two-piece. I don't know what your sister's saying about you and this, that, and the other. Huh? She said I look great. And of course now Swag walks off, and then they coming into the scene. That's what it is. And now they're like, well, what'd you say about me? Blah, 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 blah. And now we could justify this at some point in the end if you fill in the blanks yourself. But honestly, this segment, for as nice as it was performed, was unnecessary. It was an unnecessary thing. The next segment is Sibley Scoles backstage with Top Tier. I am going to say something that I did not think I would get the opportunity to say about Sibley Scoles. This is probably one of the best segments I've seen her perform. Another shocking statement, I know. Now, that doesn't mean that the backstage segment didn't have stuff that they couldn't have fixed. I still do not agree that they should be having multiple camera angles for this thing, which is what they did. And I don't know what the hell Sibley is looking at when she's back there, because her eyes dart off. And she's not looking necessarily at the camera. She's like she's looking at somebody next to the camera. Or maybe the cue cards. I don't know. But her eyes always seem to be just out of line of where she's supposed to be looking. You take those elements away, the segment is good. Except for one other thing. And we'll get to that. Now, this is basically a minimalist shoot. Getting rid of the extra camera angles, which, again, they did not need, so they can get a close-up of Gloria Glitter and Sibley Scoles. But this is Sibley's best use. She's talking to Top Tier. She put the situation over and the team. And she's set them up to be able to say something and set up the segments. This was a good job. She still needs to work on it. But this is a good job. She actually portrayed herself as being somewhat intimidated by Top Tier. Now, remember we'll say months ago when she was talking to Chainsaw, and Chainsaw does a brah, and Scoles, she looked like she just took that as a complete joke and just walked off. Here, she looked like hey, I'm not going to say anything that's going to upset you guys. I'm just going to, I'm going to let you talk, or blah, blah, blah. It looked, her body language in this instance looked more attuned to what was going on around her, opposed to being an outsider or drawing attention on herself. Like she didn't, the leather jackets, for instance. Didn't have that. She wasn't drawing attention onto herself. The moment was built around her interviewing Top Tier and what was assumed, or what is assumed to be, a bad patch in their wild career. And I was like, okay. Now, I said earlier, except for one thing. Here's that one thing. Within this, it is mentioned that everyone is lost, including Gloria Glitter, in singles competition. Now, we saw Campanelli lose to Xena Phoenix. We saw Candy Krush lose earlier in this episode, in fact, to Kara Kai. We had not seen Glitter lose. Now, maybe they were referring to when Gloria Glitter lost and Top Tier was ignoring her for taking a match to qualify for the championship. The Wild Singles Championship, by the way. But that was months ago, and that was something else, and it doesn't apply to this. So, I am left with no choice but to believe that this segment was placed in this episode out of order. It's not like Wild hasn't done this before. It's not like they haven't illustrated that sometimes whoever's putting the shows together will get segments or clips or B-roll or something along those lines out of where they're supposed to be. And I feel like this is one of those things. This feels like, and I cannot prove it, but it feels like based on what was said that this was not supposed to be in this episode. And there is other stuff to, I want to say validate it, but to reinforce the theory that that might have been the case. When reading the press release for what this episode was supposed to include on the last podcast, you may have heard me mention a tag team match. And that tag team match that was mentioned was Big Rigs and Bourbon. And they were supposed to be taking on, who was that? Crap. They were supposed to be taking on Miranda Mirage and Siren. Sorry, I just drew a blank there. Now, I don't think it's any secret at this point, since we're in review, that match did not take place. It was set up for, but it wasn't delivered on. So, if we're going to look at that, then we may just add in that, hey, it's quite possible that if they removed the Big Rigs and Bourbon match, if that was taken out of it and they were trying to fill time, then perhaps they grabbed the wrong segment to help fill out that time. Now, again, this is one of those I cannot prove moments, but that's the best theory that I have. So we'll move on from that. The next segment is Scout Parker versus Sugar. The commentator, Zane in particular, begins talking about how Spicy with her family celebrating her 2 bachelor degrees. And that's nice, but I still do not see how this helps her or the show. As being good wrestlers, that is. For multiple weeks, almost seemingly every week, they are having to justify somebody not being there. Whether that's Foxy Fierce, whether that's Sprout Greens, whether that's Sugar or Americana, it feels like every week they're having to justify someone not being on that show. And there's really no good reason behind it. Like, I'm not going to downplay anybody getting a bachelor's degree, much less 2 of them. But we're talking about in the TV universe of WoW. And in the TV universe of WoW, it does not take you a month and a half to celebrate getting your bachelor's degree. It does not take you 3 or 4 months to watch over your child unless they are in a hospital somewhere. And if that's the case, you probably need to not be wrestling. You need to be there for good. It does not take you, if you're a wrestler and you belong to the show, I can't even say that Foxy Fierce had any justified reason for being gone. She's gone and she's watching at home over at her sister, seeing her perform. Everything that they have done for these individuals has basically told me, and quite possibly whoever else is watching, that there are better things for them to do beyond being at WoW. WoW is a secondary job. So anyhow, we will take that with a grain of salt because I'm sure it's going to happen again. I am positive it's going to happen again in some other match, some other place, probably in the next episode. So on to the match at hand. Scout Parker versus Sugar. Both of these ladies who they have to talk about their partners not being there, as we just discussed. Although at this point, I'm like, just leave Scout Parker single. There's no need for Sprout Greens to pop back in and just toss her back into a tag team for no good reason. This is a okay match, but it's a cold match, so it's not really a lot of stuff going on. And I got no problem with cold match. Okay? It being a match that has no sort of rivalry, feud, angle, storyline. I mean, look, all of them cannot be that, so I have no problem with it whatsoever. What I do have the problem with is McLean and Zayn just drifting off and start talking about anything other than what's going on in front of them. And I'm kind of a split decision with this. On the one hand, and they're talking about like WoW history, by the way. They're talking about matches that took place because there's like, well, this reminds me of the Great Western Forum and so on and so forth. And then David goes off, and This is when Selena, the real deal, Selena Majors and Thug had a big brawl and blah, blah, blah. Now, okay. On the one hand, yes, you should be promoting your product, your people, your stars, whatever the case may be, and make them sound like they're a big to-do, big deal. On the other hand, I'm like, well, come on, man. Does anybody care about Selena Majors, all due respect to her, Thug, or Terry Gold? None of those names in the grand scheme of wrestling have any value beyond WOW's walls, and in some points, I wouldn't say that they have value in that. Peggy Lee Leather, who portrayed Thug, might. Bambi, who portrayed Selena Majors, might. Terry Gold definitely does not. There's no wrestling pedigree beyond any of them on that show. Not saying they weren't good wrestlers, not saying they didn't perform well. I'm not saying that they didn't have reasonable matches or anything of the kind. What I am saying is it is not as if those matches are touted or held up to as like these are the things that you should go back and watch because they were so great, and these are the stars that were made because these matches made them who they were to the wrestling public. TNA Wrestling right now, if they were going to push, say, their women's division, could probably grab any number of names out of their past and start like the matches between Gail Ken and Awesome Kong put the TNA Knockouts on the map. They can say that because it's true. And the wrestling world knew it. Selena Majors and Thug did not do that. And it certainly didn't, I don't want to say it helped their ratings because I'll be fair and say that I don't know what their ratings were 20 years ago. But I know it certainly did not help sell any pay-per-views, so that tells me that most people were not that concerned about it. So anyhow, back to the match. It was a little tight. First off, the match is fairly short. And I don't mean that by their heights. I just mean the match is fairly short. It's probably like 3 minutes long. I don't know if they had necessarily good chemistry based on what I've seen Sugar do in the ring prior to this. But it was fair enough. I do like Scout Parker. But there are times when I look at her, and I think I've said this about somebody, Payo Mayfield. I said it about her. It's times where it looks like Scout is just ready to burst out laughing. Now, I don't know if that's something that she's trying to sell in the ring because she's, finds something that the opponent did funny or whatever the case may be. But yeah, there's points in there where she looked like she just... This is hilarious. I'm having a great time. At the beginning of the match, you got an exchange between the two. I mean, and the exchange is nice. It's like a move and counter move between Sugar that she's got in a hammerlock, and Scott is trying to get away, but she can't because when she counters out of it, Sugar just pretty much puts her right back in it. So those things were cool, and then you got like a by the takedown. You got a slingshot that gets turned into a Boston Crab, and they had a good exchange of moves. Now, when I said that I didn't think that, I don't know if Sugar had the best chemistry with her. Sugar had been portrayed as somewhat a little bit more high-flying in earlier matches. Maybe that's not the best option for her while taking on Parker. So perhaps she adjusted her style to accommodate as such. So, I don't want to take anything away from either one of them. One thing I will say that I wish Scout Parker did is had a definitive finishing move. She's another one of the wild girls that it just kind of, this is a finish one week, one episode, then you'll use another one, and then maybe try something else. I wish she had the definitive finisher that she used. And at one point, I thought it was going to be the lion salt that she did, the springboard moonsault. But she never kept it. The Diamante match, she just used the splash. Here it was something altogether different. Getting to the end of the match. Scout is trying to roll Sugar up. This is the point where she looked like she's having a good laugh at whatever's going on in the ring. I don't know. Maybe Sugar told her a joke or something. She gets caught in some head scissors. Sugar's able to take Parker down. She being Sugar, gets a nice clothesline in on her, stops a clothesline from Parker, whips her around, and catches her with a bulldog, which Nigel Zane, for whatever reason, incorrectly twice calls it a bulldog DDT. Now, I'm going to say incorrectly because there's no such thing as a bulldog DDT. It cannot be done. You have a bulldog headlock. Bulldog DDT there's no such thing. So, I mean, sorry to disagree with a commentating colleague, but no, that's not a thing. And I just wish he hadn't doubled down on it. But Sugar catches Parker with a bulldog, takes her across the ring. And then she tries to hoist her up for who knows what because she gets her on her shoulders. And it looks like she's straining to get her up. I don't know why she's doing that because it didn't seem like Scout Parker would be, some massive lift for her. Maybe it was, but they're roughly about the same size. And I would imagine that she would be able to do this. But as she does, Scout lightly rakes the face of Sugar. I really wish that was one of those things that either the camera didn't catch it the way that they did, or I wish that she had better ways to illustrate the rake. Because they're just, like I said, look like a light brushing over her face. So she catches her with that. That gets her off of her shoulders. She hooks Sugar in like a cravat. And with a little assistance, she's able to hit her with a Acai DDT. Or for you people that's here, that's in America, just call it a flip over reverse DDT. Either way works. Some areas they call it severe skull trauma. I like that name, SST. It was a good match, but it was slow. It was like a training class match, quite honestly. Not necessarily bad, but it was a fine match that looked like two people that was trying to get their footing and timing and how to execute certain things. So it was fine. Good that Scout Parker won. It was the one match in the show that didn't account for anything or did not have some sort of tie-in attached to it. Back to the thing with Majors and Thug, and they're talking about that. I did write a while past names worth talking about in search reference. I understand he has to speak of them highly, and I'm absolutely positive that it's done with love and reverence out of him. But do they have the equity in their names is my question. And that is a legitimate question. I'm not just saying that to say it. Do they have that kind of equity in their names that would justify them talking about it the way that they do? If you have a comment about that, please feel free to leave it below. Next segment is a recap of the double submission on Genesis, and McLean says this forced a new number one contenders match. I wrote, did it? Question mark. This didn't force anything. This was just a match that they wanted. There's probably any number of ways they could have gotten out of that at that episode if they wanted to, and they chose not to do it. So this is the video / recap, which is supposed to lead to another number one contenders match and another main event. They decide who's going to face the Classmaster. I hope they get this over with. I hope they get this over with, and I hope they get it over with quick. I do not want to sit through another series of promised number one contenders matches that lead to nothing. Broken record time. I know I've said the commentators need to be trusted. Well, you know, the commentator / matchmaker needs to be trusted too. And making constant promises with hollow endings all the time can come back and bite you. Yeah, you can get one here and there that you can do and try to hook people into wanting to see it again, but I did not care. When that match was over, I just didn't. I didn't care. I was like, oh, just let me know when they get to the match. Just let me know when they get to the title match. I'm tired of this. I'm tired of these number one contenders matches. You've already run that into the ground. Just get past it already. The next segment was a voiceover talking about the issues of the Fab Four and Princess Aussie and Tormenta having claim on challenging for the titles because they weren't pinned in the four-way tag title match. Now, when the four-way tag title match came about, I said at that time that Princess Aussie and Tormenta were basically just bodies in the match to fill out a four-way. Now it has come to where they have gotten themselves involved deeper than that. But by all accounts, Aussie and Tormenta lost clean to Miami Sweet Heat before they had their third and final confrontation, but that was well after the fact. They probably shouldn't have been in the match to begin with. But we'll take it because, you know, that's what I wanted to do, so we'll just let that be what it is. I don't want to say confused. I have not verified whether this voiceover is AI or not. There's been a couple of people that have made the comments like they're using their AI voice again to do the voiceover. And that's very possible, especially now. But I do wonder if it's true. I was like, are they using AI just to get a different voice in there? Who knows? So this leads off to the main event. The tag team championship match with Tormenta and Princess Aussie taking on HollySwag and Penelope Pink. And as I've said with several matches, I dislike the use of their B-roll because the B-roll looks outdated. Not so much for the heels because HollySwag has only been the HollySwag in this incarnation for a couple of months, so they can use that. Penelope Pink hasn't really changed her look since she's gotten there, so they can use that. But Aussie certainly has. She's not blonde anymore. I mean, I don't really find it necessary to have the B-roll playing in the first place. Everybody doesn't need it. But, hey, what are we going to do about it? Zayn tries to make the scenario that is in front of us make sense. And although it sounds plausible, the execution of this angle still seems off to me. The angle being this all-encompassing deal with HollySwag and Penelope Pink, and they're having a problem with Miami Sweet Heat, and Lana Star picking them over the other team, even though there was no real reason to do it, and, you know, all of that stuff. It, for whatever reasons, as like I said, as far as I can tell, it didn't feel like this was a clear angle no matter what he has tried to do to justify the angle, didn't feel very clear to me. This match, not the finish, but this match is maybe one of the best main events I've seen Wild do in some time. They actually gave this match time. The last podcast, I remember saying, the triple threat match, that it felt like it was a 20-minute match crammed into 10. Here, I did not get that feeling at all. And it took place between 4 capable workers. I mean, aside from how it wound up, there's not really much that I would look at and be like, well, this is wrong and that's wrong. Why did they do this? You know, I did not have that feeling, which was great to be able to say for once in a while. In the main event, certainly, and something that they highlight as a big deal. Now, before we go into the match in and of itself, and again, the quality of the match I have absolutely no problems with. But the intersecting angles, I'm still a little unclear. On the one hand, we still got Swag and Pink, who are somewhat portraying an odd couple tag team. 2 people that are kind of thrown together, and we, you know, like Pink still doesn't treat her as an equal. As evident, well, I can't even say as evident by the beginning of the match. Now, it wasn't anything that they did, mind you. It's that the camera didn't really catch it. So they didn't really illustrate the point of Pink walking out on her when they were doing the rock, paper, scissors thing. And I only caught it when I went back and watched it like the second or third time. But that whole thing, I don't know where they are with that. I don't know if the Trojan horse thing makes any sense. I talked about that earlier. Why would Swag be able to portray the Trojan horse even though she's brained a couple of baby faces along the way? They're just collateral damage to this. I don't understand Lana Star in this particular instance being, I guess, swayed by HollySwag without any real thing to pull her over, the same way that I felt about Swag when she fell in love with the lifestyle of Lana Star. Like, it wasn't a lot of substance to that. And it's not a lot of substance to why Lana Star would just suddenly just dismiss Miami Sweet Heat. So those things still get me as far as where they are, why they are, so on and so forth. And I'm sure more of that's going to come up as this match goes on. So the babyfaces came out first, had a little bit of B-roll, and if they had just left off the singular B-roll of them, you'd probably been fine. I don't know why they chose to bring up Aussie standing on a lake and Tormenta in Mexico, both of them with blonde hair. Neither of them have that now. So I don't know why they chose to insert that, but they just did. And then you got Swag and Pink. They come out, they same deal, but theirs is more updated because they just got together. And there's no reason to be pulling in Swag's old stuff because it wouldn't make any sense to show her in mother trucker outfits and so on and so forth. I just talked about that. I know I'm recapping myself, but just bear with me. So the match, if you saw that beginning, it felt like a bigger deal. You saw HollySwag and Penelope Pink in the corner. Now, if you saw it not real quickly, but the camera's right up on them doing rock, paper, scissors. This is what I mean when I said, that should have been a better shot because it's very easy to miss that Penelope Pink did not wait to see what she picked or what Swag picked. She just walked out. She just got out of the ring and left Swag to go into it. All right? So Swag is the one that has to start this thing off, and she starts off with, not Penelope Pink, but Princess Aussie. And they lock up like they mean it. I loved it. Absolutely loved it. They locked up like it was something that they were trying to accomplish, trying to impose their will on the other person. Most everything that took place between the ropes, bell to bell, with these ladies, all four of them, I'm not talking about just Aussie and Swag, looked good. Even when Aussie got out of it, she does this snap mare. She pulls it over. It looks like she has got that thing on there. A couple of weeks ago, I was talking about how Paola Mayfield heard whatever it is that she was attempting to do, that sleeper. It's like, it didn't look like it would choke or hurt anybody. Aussie looked like she was putting some effort in there, and Swag looked the part like, oh my God, I can't breathe. You know, reaching out and grabbing the hair and getting a good yank of it. I mean, all of that stuff. I wrote down, and this is maybe the highest compliment that I could give the entire match. I wrote down, this is like a match I might have seen on WCW Saturday nights back in the day. And that was the highest compliment that I could pay to this match. Even down to, you know, the just the little mannerisms, the little nuances, the facial reactions, the the effort, charging into the corner, putting in full throttle when she's doing it, the suplex, the grabbing of the back when she goes down, you know, all of that. Not just standing over and getting clobbered every 2 or 3 seconds like Tormenta did with the Miami Sweet Heat match. Like this match, I'm hesitant to say it was drastically different, but it certainly had a different flavor and a different feel than the Aussie Miami Sweet Heat match. These four felt like they had much more chemistry going on, in my opinion. Swag is able to get out of there. Then we get Penelope Pink coming in, and then there's a little reference to the fact that they've had a history with each other. And I like that because we've had the issue with them in a singles role before, and now we got them in the tag team. And so it's revisited. And there's a little bit of chemistry between the two of them. And it shows and it looks good. The arm drags that Pink is taking. I mean, she's throwing herself into these things. All of it. I enjoy. And here's the other thing that I appreciate, because I thought that they were about to do that tandem move that I absolutely like. I wish Aussie and Tormenta would just stop, because no one can time this thing right. Well, they didn't do it. Holy crap, they didn't do it. And I know they didn't listen to me for that because it's already taped, but I'm just saying I'm glad somebody or they made a decision themselves. We can't be doing that. It doesn't look good. So we get Pink in the ring, and then we get the tag out of Tormenta. They shoot Pink into the ropes. She hooks herself onto the ropes so she doesn't get fired back, which then looks like it's, I don't want to say it's set up for them perfect, but it does look like Pink thwarted them momentarily. Tormenta then tries to shoot Princess Aussie into Penelope Pink, who is there waiting for Princess Aussie because she's hooked herself onto the ropes, and she stops her, shins over to the top. She tries to take out Tormenta, but Tormenta hooks the arm, does the do-si-do, sends her back. So at least in that point, the stuff seemed plausible. You can argue about time. You can say that maybe, okay, it was a hooked up spot or whatever the case may be. But it came off a lot better than the tandem move that they had been doing as a team. So when she does the do-si-do, she sends Penelope Pink down to the second rope. Ozzy's already there, catches her, and basically like a version of a neck breaker, even though it's not a neck breaker. A version of that across the ropes, and then Tormenta goes for the cover. HollySwag's right in to make the save and stops it. Good stuff. So we continue on. The match goes. Beyond the finish of the match, this is probably something if I was trying to say, hey, if you're selling them on Wild, this may be one of the matches that you toss into that list. Tandem move, Swag gets in. She gets caught in a double hip toss, which sets up for a combination leg drop by Tormenta, and, well, not combination, but Tormenta sends Aussie down in a leg drop on top of Swag. Swag is able to get out. Swag is selling. She's hurt. Nice, forearm shots by Aussie. Like, all four people in this ring felt like they were giving it everything they had to try to make this match good. Ridiculous ending aside. But we'll get to that. So we're not going to go through this thing piece by piece and moment by moment and match by match. We're going to go to the part where I felt that they might have they didn't take it necessarily a wrong turn, but it was a little bit more than what I wanted out of them at this point. So let's get to where Tormenta is getting the heat on her. And they do the little photo op deal. I still maintain that it should only be one team that's doing that. That's kind of utilized amongst one too many heels on Wild's television at this point. We're going to attack and drape you over the ropes and pose for the camera and all that good stuff. I really want Lana Star to cheat better. There's a point in the match where Lana and HollySwag have Tormenta in the corner and they just are yanking her hair. Now, I'm pretty sure that that's not a comfortable thing to have. Somebody pulling at your hair. But at the same time, it's like, put your hand around her throat, choke her out a little bit, take some cheap shots or something, smack her in the face or something. It just would, in my opinion, it would just come off a little better. It's not worth saying the match is bad over or something like that, but it just would come off just a tad better, in my opinion. All right, so let's get back to what we're going on with the match here. The heels are taking control and they're hitting, one move after another on Tormenta, and she's doing everything she can to stick with this thing, including Swag getting a running knee strike on a seated Tormenta, and she kicks out of that. Swag is upset. She's frustrated. And then she gives her a great clothesline, does Tormenta. Yeah, just a fantastic short arm clothesline. Like, she looked like she put some body into that thing. Some of them girls in the back needed to be watching this. Because if you ain't willing to take the bump, you probably should not be a wrestler. So anyway, Swag takes that and she's rolling to try to get out of there. And we get the double tag. We get Aussie. She comes in. We get, I was about to say Tormenta comes in, but Tormenta just left. But we get Pink. She comes in, and now the babyface is back in control. And here is, I guess, one of our nice little spots of the match. We get Aussie, who gets the eye rake by Penelope Pink. This sets her up in the corner. She tries to stop Pink from charging in by putting her feet up, but Pink catches her and swings her feet outwards of the ropes. So now she's seated on the second rope. This is the setup for one of Pink's signature things, the sliding German suplex. And in this case, the sequence that took place here was good, but it just got progressively downgraded. And I'll explain that. Because of how she did it, Pink comes off. She does the slide in German. She slides out, and she is, fanning herself, and she's proud of what she did. Aussie is down on the inside. And Pink has slid through we'll call it the babyface side of the ring. Tormenta's standing there. She's looking at Pink, fanning herself, and being very pleased with her handiwork. And then the camera cuts back. We see Tormenta take a senton dive off of the apron onto Pink. We did not see that coming because of the angle, because of how they set it up, because of where Tormenta was. It looked like a natural thing to do. Then Ozzy's back up to her feet, and she gets HollySwag off of her, who's giving her crap on the ropes, on the apron. And Ozzy sees the two of them on the outside fighting. Just exchanging blows back and forth. And then Ozzy dives to the ropes, and she takes them both out. And now we got all three of them on the floor. And Ozzy's yelling into the camera. She's proud of herself as well. Now we see HollySwag, and she's going up to the top rope. And she now is diving off of the top rope onto the floor on all three. The first one was great. The second one was good. The third one was all right and very predictable. That's why I said it was fine, but it did get progressively, it just wore down progressively. I'll put it that way. You didn't see the first one coming because how it got positioned. The second one you saw coming, but you was like, oh, okay, that's pretty cool. She take a dive through the ropes. The third one, you definitely saw that coming. You knew that once there's three of them on the floor, I was like, all right, well, I guess here comes dive number 3 because all of them have to do it now. So we got that. And we're back to what should have been the legal. No, wait a minute. I was about to get it wrong because there was a blind tag that took place before Pink did the slide in German. So we got the legal persons in the ring. We got Aussie, we got Swag, and Aussie gives a super kick and puts Swag down. She's about to go up for a finish. The frog splash off the top. And now we get, I guess, predictable spot number 2. And predictable doesn't mean bad, by the way. I'm just saying that you can see it coming. So Pink stops Aussie from coming off the top rope. She goes up like she's about to give her a superplex. Then HollySwag comes over and is like, hey, I'm going to help you give a superplex. And then Tormenta comes in, and then she does the old Tower of Doom spot and hooks in both Swag and Pink into a powerbomb while they're holding on to Princess Aussie. So we get a superplex, powerbomb combo, Tower of Doom, crash pad landing. When they're all down, here comes Miami Sweet Heat walking down the ringside. Because why not? So we got Aussie down, Swag down, Tormenta gets up, she hooks up Penelope Pink on top of her shoulders. And this is why I say, the match in and of itself was fine, but then when it got down to the end, I was like, oh, okay. It was fun while it lasted, but, it's not going to take away from my overall enjoyment, but I guess this moment had to come. And now when when Tormenta has Pink up on her shoulders and she hooks her into this, well, I guess it might have been an airplane spin. I don't know. She very clearly and purposely swings Pink's feet towards the referee and knocks him out cold. This is the same referee who just, anything that hits him, just out. I'm out for the count, baby. It's just done. Just lay me out. And so he was. He was laid out, unconscious, after taking that kick in the mouth. Tormenta hooks Penelope Pink up in a Styles Clash. Hits the Styles Clash and goes for the cover. At this point, we got Swag, who has retrieved her. I don't know why she would call it the secret weapon when she just comes out with that thing at any given point. And it's not much of a secret when she uses it constantly and everybody sees it. So here's where my dispute of the finish really begins. It's already bad enough when they got the predictability points down, but here's where I'm like, I don't know. So, referee's down. Swag saves Pink with her rock in the sock. Comes over there and whops Tormenta in the head. Knocks her out. Then Aussie ducks underneath it and she gets caught with a super kick. So Swag puts her down. Then she's getting ready to hit her while she's on the ground for some reason or another. I don't know why. It looked like she would have won just off the super kick, perhaps. But she's swinging this thing around, waiting for Lori to come in and grab her arm, or one of the two. And she does. Lori comes in, grabs her arm, like, hey, what are you doing with this rock? And, and almost in babyface mode, like, you're going to cheat? No, I'm not going to let you do that. So she throws it out. And Lindsay comes up behind Swag. And now they're preparing to clobber her as, Lindsay's going to hold her as Lori comes in and drives her with a clothesline or punch in the mouth or whatever you want to call it. Swag gets out of the way. Lori nails her sister. Swag is yelling at her like, what are you doing? Aussie tries to get a quick roll-up in. Swag kicks out of that. Ducks underneath a clothesline from Aussie, rolls her up, grabs her tights, and pins her. So, yes, the babyfaces did get cheated, but the heels here pretty much overcame, and not just the heels, HollySwag pretty much overcame the odds to win. She overcame her partner being on the floor. She overcame, well, not just overcame her being on the floor, she saved her partner, overcame her being on the floor, overcame the babyface that tried to hit her, but she caught her with a super kick. So she didn't even cheat to put her down initially. Overcame the attack from her stablemates. I don't know. Miami Sweet Heat ducks out of that and evades that attack. Then kicks out of the roll up from the babyface and reverses and gets a roll up on her own to win. I cannot say that I agree with the ending. I enjoyed the match up until that point. Now, clearly we got the winners, Swag and Pink. They're maintaining the championship. I just didn't understand if we were going to have the finish of Miami Sweet Heat causing problems to their, quote, stablemates, and the babyfaces were not going to succeed. Couldn't they have gone about it in a different route? I mean, I would just figure they could have taken just a slight deviation. Where, let's just say, Miami Sweet Heat did come out. Just like they do here. And they're looking to, quote, help. Like HollySwag tried to help them. And one of them tells, hey, hold Princess Aussie for me and I'll nail her. I'll hit her with the clothesline or fist or something. So you have Swag hold the babyface. Babyface moves out of the way. Lori hits Swag. Aussie then can go up and hit this frog splash. Boom, 1, 2, 3. And we think we got new champions. Referee is up before then. I wouldn't have had him knocked out in the first place. Maybe impaired, but I wouldn't have him knocked out. Referee's up from that. Sees the interference. And I shouldn't say 1, 2, 3. He should call it after impact. She should come down off of the frog splash, hit it, think that she's got to win when he calls for the bell. And he says, well, they won the match, But they won by disqualification because we can't give you this clean win because Miami Sweet Heat came in. So we can further the issues between Swag, Pink, well, Swag in particular, and Miami Sweet Heat. And the babyfaces can get the win, not necessarily the titles. It can lead them in title contendership and move all this stuff in the same direction that it's going now without it having skipped a beat. But that's just my 2 cents. I wrote good match, but I don't know what they're trying to accomplish with this because of where they were going. One of the things that I am glad that they didn't show was the Instagram follow-up to Miami Sweet Heat. You go to the Instagram page, you then see them walking backstage, but it's almost like it's in reverse. Like Lori doesn't want to talk to Lindsay. As if to be like, how dare you get punched in the mouth by me? You know, it seems like it should have been the other way around. Also, like, I'm really glad that that's not on the air because that would just look stupid. But no, I don't know where they're trying to go with this. I don't know if the Fab Four have officially broken up. I don't know if they're trying to have HollySwag be some sort of Trojan horse by the way they're treating it. I don't know if they're trying to get Miami Sweet Heat to break. It just, there's a lot of up in the air. And it's not enough stuff that's tied to this up in the air that's making me like, well, I got to see what's happening. Because it's all over the place. Like with that group alone, it feels like three different angles going on. So whereas I did enjoy the match, and I thought all 4 ladies did a great job, I did not care for the finish of that match. It is a bit early for Swag and Pink to be dropping the belts as far as their TV appearances go. So I'm not mad at the finish. It just, I don't get the baby faces losing like that. I really don't. And the only saving grace here is that Swag used the tights. And that might give some justification to them saying, hey, we got cheated out of it. But really, the star of this thing at the end was HollySwag. She the one that stood tall. She battled through and succeeded. She had to cheat to do it, but that's what she did. She managed to get this thing through. I don't know about this referee knocking out stuff that Jeff McGowan is doing all the time. It feels like all the time, but they need to find another thing to use beyond, oh my God, he got knocked out. They need to find something else besides that. He gets knocked out way too easily. So, and that was the show. That was the show. They exceeded what I would have expected. And maybe again, my expectations have dropped with WoW. Well, I'm not going to say maybe. They certainly have. But in terms of structure to the show, this is probably one of the more well-structured shows that I've seen them have. Aside from what I feel is a out-of-sequence segment and the finish of the main event. That loss that they're talking about with Glory Glitter, I was like, this cannot be in order. And I did write down the last match that Glitter had singularly. That was in March. And that was versus Chantilly. I'm sorry, that wasn't in March. That was in December. December 28th. So that couldn't possibly be what they're talking about. That feels like it was just edited wrong and they just depended on fans not knowing the difference. Not what I would have done with my show. I'll be honest. This is one of those, it bothers me as an editor type moments. And it does. It bothers me as an editor. Not as a fan of the show, but as an editor who would want my stuff in order so you can understand it, so you can get what's going on. And, of course, the angles of the main event. I'm going to stay tuned. I'm going to watch. I'm going to see where it goes. I'm going to see where HollySwag and Penelope Pink and the drama of Miami Sweet Heat goes to. And it seems like Lana Star has begun to speak less. I would think that she would have said something about this issue at some point, but doesn't feel like she's wanting to do that. Perhaps they will get to that at somewhere in the future. The end of the match, or end of the show, goes off with McLean proudly saying that WOW is the best in women's wrestling. And whereas this match was a good representation of the best talent that WOW has, it's still difficult for me to say it is the best in women's wrestling. And I don't mean that as a knock to WOW, but it does make it somewhat difficult for me to just this is the best women's wrestling in the world. I know they like to use this is where the only ones with a global footprint, which, again, untrue. And then being the best is going to have to account for a lot of different organizations and divisions. So it's really hard for me to blindly say that. Now, I understand why he says it, because it's his promotion, and he should promote it. He should put it over. He should be talking about it like it's the best thing ever. So I can't be mad. I can't knock him for it. I can't be like, well, how dare he say that? No, he should say it. I just don't agree. But I'm allowed not to agree, as he's allowed not to agree with me. I don't know what I would list as the best women's wrestling going on right now. I don't watch Ring of Honor's women's division. I don't watch Ring of Honor. So until they start putting it back on YouTube, which I think they have slowly begun to do, and until I start tuning into that, I can't give it the time of day. WWE's women's division is pretty good, but it is very muddled right now. A lot of talent in there. And they have probably the most over set of women wrestlers in the world right now. So that accounts for something. AEW, they like to put out their bangers. We all know that. Stardom, Spark, Shine, Shimmer. I don't think Shimmer still runs. But all of those things, they have a lot of outstanding talent. It is very difficult for me just to singularly say that, well, WOW is the best of them. That maybe if they can grow off of the impression they gave me on this episode, I would start to feel better about it. But I don't want to get my hopes up. What is due to come up next? Well, they like to send out the good old press releases for whatever the episode happens to be that's waiting on deck. And I would like to read that release for you right now. This is the next episode listed as Season 3, Episode 36, Wicked Sisterhoods. I'm interested to see how that title even plays in anything. Okay, so WOW World Champion, the 6'2" Classmaster, issues a bold challenge to the WOW roster that leads to a shocking opening match. After being stomped out in singles action, top tiers Coach Campanelli and Kandy Krush rally behind fellow team member Gloria Glitter as she faces the sweet and spunky Sugar of the Mighty Mites. Chainsaw and Daisy Lane form a wicked sisterhood with Fury. Oh my God. Okay, let me finish. Form a wicked sisterhood with Fury to unleash an onslaught of destruction against Santillicella, Roxy Fierce, and Holiday in a trios match. A winner takes all match is tonight's main event between Paola, the Colombian Goat, and Santana Garrett to settle the contested double pin from the triple threat match 2 weeks prior. It's a high stakes battle. The winner will be rightfully entitled to a championship match with the Classmaster. Oh, man. Okay, let's start with the obvious. I guess they have to put in 6'2" Classmaster, even in these, because that's her first name. First name, the 6'2", last name, Classmaster. And I have no idea what that is because I haven't taken a look at the pictures. I could spoil it for myself and take a look, but I haven't bothered. I am going to assume that whatever it is that she's doing, she's going to win. If it's a match, I can only guess it's a match. Gloria Glitter and Sugar. Again, I am going to assume that this is the match that was talked about in this episode. So I'm going to go with Sugar here, that she would win. If she doesn't, then maybe they are taking a different direction. I don't know, but I'm going to go with Sugar just because they talked about a loss of Gloria Glitter that I have yet to have seen. And if she does win by chance, then it is definitely going to validate what I said earlier. That I was like, this has to be out of sequence. This has to be a segment that was just tossed in because somebody wasn't paying attention, or they just think that their viewership is stupid and won't know it. And I'm pretty sure a good chunk of the viewership did notice it. Daisy Lane and Chainsaw with Fury. How many more tag teams is Fury just going to be thrown into? And I guess Roxy Fierce is now the official stand-in for Kalaki the Island Girl. You know what? I don't know. Who won the last? I'm going to go with the baby faces, Chella, Fierce, and Holiday. We'll see how that works out. And then a winner-take-alls match. I don't know what it is that they're taking. It's not like they both put something up on the line, so I don't agree with the statement that whoever wrote this is trying to make it sound like. There's nothing that either one of these people are putting on the line. So this cannot be a winner-takes-all match. There's nothing being bet. There's no stipulation. There's no offering from either Mayfield or Garrett. And it wasn't a double pin. It was a double submission, which shouldn't have happened in the first place. But let's go with Santana Garrett on that one. I mean, how many more times can she go through a number one contenders match? If she goes into this match and loses, holy smokes, I am going to feel like Santana Garrett is the biggest. If I can borrow a line from Charlemagne the God, I would apply. She gets the donkey of the day. She would get the donkey of the month if she goes into that match and loses. After having number one contender match that she won and another one that she basically won again. If she loses this, I'm like, yep, forget donkey of the day. You got donkey of the month. And that's it. That is going to do it for this review. I was going to say eagerly awaiting, but I'm actually not. So I cannot say I'm eagerly awaiting anything off of that. I am curious. I am optimistically curious. I hope that it does give me something to look forward to. I hope that it makes me feel like, this thing is getting better, but I don't know if I am going to get that. It scares me that I might not get that some dumb stuff might take place that puts this show right back to where it was in Stupidville. And that being the case here, we are going to just give this thing a close. So, on behalf of myself and the Women's Pro Wrestling Network, this was I'll give it a thumbs up. Normally I would just say, hey, this thing is terrible, this angle is stupid, and everything else, but who knows? They may actually surprise me next week, so we will check that out and we'll see. Let's finish this up by saying, if you are listening to this in a podcast form, it is available on greater podcast platforms everywhere. If you're watching this on YouTube and listening to it as well, then do the YouTube things. Like, share, and subscribe. If you are unaware of where to find those things on both counts, and I don't know why you wouldn't be able to find it, but hey, you know what you can do? You can go to WPNWrestling.com. WPNWrestling.com has got everything that I have done there and is constantly being uploaded or updated. Podcast goes up, goes there. Video goes up, goes there. And that thing runs 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, with videos dating back to 2013 of faces and names that you likely know that have moved on to bigger, better, and greener pastures. That being the WWE, TNA, and AEW, and there's a few of them that have dropped through WoW. Imagine that. So it gives us a lot of stuff to check out. See, look, I had that 25-day channel thing happening a long time ago. Wow, I was late to the dance. I'm already done this. So anyhow, we've gotten that out of the way. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in. I appreciate your time. Leave your comments, leave your questions, send me your messages. All that good stuff is fun. I appreciate the interaction. And on that note, this is Mr. Green saying that this is Mr. Green saying, so long. We will see you on the next go-round. Take care, everybody.
Thank you for listening to the WPN's Rights and Wrongs of Pro Wrestling. If you have questions or comments, please contact us via our Facebook or our YouTube channel at the Women's Pro Wrestling Network. If you're new to the WPN, feel free to subscribe to our channel and like our page. We appreciate your support. Thank you again for listening.